guys, welcome back. If this is your first time here, my name is Katie. I am the owner and artist behind Salvaged by K. Scott. A few weeks ago, I picked up a two-piece china cabinet from the side of the road for completely free, and I've already transformed the bottom half of that cabinet into a standalone unit. It's now a light, bright, airy media console, and now I'm going to transform the top. This makeover is going to be a completely different vibe from the bottom section. Let's go see what we're working with. My plan for this brand new upcycled piece of furniture is to chop it down, add some cool legs, give it a fresh coat of paint, and some really cool new door panels. First things first, I gotta take it all apart. I removed the doors from the cabinet and then took off the hinges and the pulls, and I also went in and removed all of the little brackets that held the glass in place. I'm going to need to cut off the extra skirting on the bottom of this cabinet box to make it its own separate piece of furniture. I laid it on its side and used a metal square and a Sharpie to mark out where I'm going to be making my cuts. I decided to use the bottom of the trim on the front of the cabinet as a good natural break point for this. I took my metal square and decided to use it as a straight edge so that I could keep my saw going straight when it was time to make my cuts. The saw is unplugged here. I'm just using this to measure out where the blade is actually going to hit. Once I had this all figured out, I clamped my metal straight edge to the cabinet side and used it as a guide to run my saw in a nice straight line. I do also need to mention here, I should not be wearing drawstrings. You don't want to wear anything loose or dangling that can get pulled into power tools. It's very dangerous. Please be smarter than me. Once I had everything measured out and clamped down, I plugged in my saw and made my first cut. Once this cut was done, I continued to flip the cabinet over on its back and then onto the other side and just continued my straight line all the way around the bottom. And this is what the bottom of the cabinet looked like after I had finished making all of my cuts. Now it's time to add the legs. I purchased this set of 4 solid wood furniture legs from Amazon. I'll leave a link to those down in the description box. But in order to install these on the bottom of my cabinet, I needed to build some wood blocks. The wood blocks are going to make sure that the legs are sitting at an appropriate height, and I also need some material to be able to drill into and install this metal threaded portion. I found some scraps of 2x4s, and I also ended up cutting some squares of scrap OSB board to sit on top, and the 2x4 with the 1/2-inch OSB on top ended up being the perfect height to build these blocks. I used some wood glue and a whole bunch of wood screws to really securely attach these wooden blocks to the base of my cabinet. Unfortunately, my battery died and my camera stopped recording, and I didn't realize until it was too late, but I used a 1/2-inch drill bit to drill a hole in the corner of each of these blocks, and that way I can screw the legs right onto the bottom. Glass inserts that once made up this shelf were broken, so my husband cut me some pieces of 1/4-inch MDF and we just stapled those in where the glass was prior. I had a lot of screw holes from my little leg installing adventure, and I filled those in with some DAP wood putty. The last repair or modification that I need to make is to this hole in the top of the cabinet. I assume that this was wired for lights at one point. So what I did was grab a 1-inch hole saw and cut myself a wood plug out of another scrap 2x4. I don't know if this is technically the right way to solve this problem, but I'm just showing you guys what I did to plug up this hole. I put a piece of painter's tape on the bottom of the hole to hold everything together, and then I mixed up some of this Minwax 2-part high performance wood filler. Once this filler is dry, it's going to be super hard, probably even harder than the wood. Once I got it nice and mixed up, I put a little bit of the wood filler in the bottom of the hole, put the plug in the center, and then really packed the wood filler in around it. I'm just using the plug here to take up some space so I don't have to use wood filler to fill this entire void. And because it's such a large area, I let this cure up nice and hard for a couple of days before I went back and sanded everything smooth. Once all of my filled areas were good and dry, I came back with some 120 grit sandpaper and sanded all of those areas flush. I also used a 220 grit sandpaper over all of the surfaces that I was going to be painting to scuff them up and get them ready to really hold on to my paint. Once I had all the repairs done and things were ready to go, I went over everything one more time with a clean, damp rag to remove any dust. I'm going to be painting this piece in House and Canvas chalk finish furniture paint in the color Underground. It is an absolutely stunning earthy olive green. And I'm going to be applying my paint with my gravity-fed HVLP pneumatic spray gun. I do need to thin this paint with some water before I can spray it. So here you can see I added about 2 ounces of water to approximately 14 ounces of paint. This is just how I do it, how I've always done it. Yes, technically you should mix your paint in a separate container and then strain it into your gun. That's just not how I roll. I started out painting with this piece upside down so that I could get around all of the legs really easily. And then once that was dry, I flipped it the right way around and applied 2 coats of paint to the entire piece inside and out. This paint only needs about an hour to dry between coats. As long as it is dry to the touch, you are safe to go ahead with your next coat. If you'd like to know more about my spray gun and how I spray my pieces, I will leave a card up above to a video that I created all about my spraying setup. I let my final coat of paint dry really well overnight, and then I brought the cabinet inside the house where it's a little bit warmer to apply my wax top coat. This House and Canvas Protective Wax Top Coat is super easy to apply. You just brush it on in small circular motions, one section at a time, and then come back with a clean lint-free rag and wipe off any excess. I got so inspired by watching another DIY YouTuber. A few months ago, DIY Lily Ardor built from scratch a really beautiful cabinet, and she used burlap as a dupe for cane radio weave webbing. I thought Lily's cabinet was pure furniture genius. I'll make sure that I leave a link for Lily's burlap dupe video down in the description box below so that you can check it out for yourself. Luckily, I know that I already have a couple of old burlap tablecloths down in my basement. I've actually already cut them up for a few other DIYs, and these are going to work perfectly for my new door panels. I definitely should have ironed my burlap before I started attaching it to the door frames, but I was hopeful that by pulling it nice and taut, it would all even out. I am gonna have to go back after the fact and iron these door panels. I attached the burlap to the back of the door frames with some 1/4-inch staples. I found it worked best for me if I attached one edge fully and then worked across the opposite edge, pulling really tightly and working my way sort of left to right with my staples, trying to keep even tension on the burlap as I went. Once I had the top and bottom secured, I went ahead and worked side to side with the same method. Once I had the burlap all stapled on, I came back with some kitchen scissors and just trimmed off the excess. I really liked the way that the tarnished brass hardware looked against the olive green color with the natural burlap, so I just left it all alone and reinstalled everything as it was. My husband and I are currently renovating most of the main floor of our house, including the dining living room and the kitchen. So I think I'm gonna hang on to this cabinet for myself. I can't wait to get it into our new dining room space once all the construction is done and be able to fill it up with all of my excess home decor and staging props for my furniture photography. I do plan on adding some sort of trim to cover up the staples and the unfinished edge on the inside of the door panels. I'll probably come back later and glue on either a thin strip of burlap ribbon or maybe some really thin wood trim. But for now, it's just gonna have to be good enough as it is. It'll be sort of an out of sight, out of mind kind of a thing until I get a chance to do that. Anyways, let me show you what this cabinet looks like now that it's all put back together. I really hope that you enjoyed this furniture upcycle just as much as I enjoyed pulling it all together. If you did, please make sure that you leave me a big thumbs up and a comment before you go. And if you love a fresh modern furniture makeover and you're not already subscribed to my channel, please do that too. And I will catch you guys next time.